I happened to catch this in like, you know, when you go on any site with articles and there's like a whole slew of them on the left or right. It was one of those ones, and I saw it and I was like, "Is that real?" And as far as I can tell, it is. I'll just read it out. In a recent podcast interview, Gladiator 2 cinematographer John Matheson seems to have thrown Ridley Scott under the bus. He said he's worked as Scott's director of photography for films including Gladiator, Matchstick Men, Kingdom of Heaven, and there's a good chance they're never going to work together again after these comments. So that's a good setup, eh? Matheson claims Scott has become lazy and rushes to get things done. He further adds Scott's current approach has negatively impacted the quality of his recent films, including their look and feel. He went on to claim the director has changed and was now quite impatient on set, which he felt has a detrimental effect on the finished product or production. And he told the podcast that Scott now shoots with scenes with multiple cameras rather than one, resulting in less attention to detail. It's really lame, really lazy, Matheson continued. It's the CG elements now of tidying up, leaving things in shot, cameras in shot, microphones in shot, bits of set hanging down, shadows from booms. And they just said on Gladiator 2, well, clean it up. He is quite impatient, so he likes to get as much done as he can at once. And it's not good for cinematography, he explained.
I mean, like, if I was to pick out my biggest issues with Gladiator 2, like, sure, I guess you could say the cinematography might not be as good as the first one, and there's an over-reliance on CGI, but, like, the biggest issue is just the story shit.
Yeah.
Well, like, I think surely this is it's not necessarily about that. It would be the broadness of just Ridley Scott in general. I have to imagine this is going to reflect everything, not just cinematography.
I mean, do you get to that stage in life where you're like, shit, I'm probably going to be dead soon. I should probably try and make as many things as I can while I've still got time.
I mean,
and that's why I'm trying to rush through it all.
That's the thing. If that's what it is, as far as I'm concerned, that is an explanation, not an excuse. It's like, I understand why it's happening, but that doesn't mean that you should be doing this. You shouldn't be just pouring out shit just because you're old. Like, it's right.
And particularly doing it on just like really like generic sequels like this, just kind of cash grab sequels that are pretty derivative of the first one. You know, I think you mentioned this on like a Last Order stream that we did. Like, if you're at that stage in your career, you've got nothing left to prove as a filmmaker. Like, get crazy and experimental. Like, take risks, because why not? This is the time to do it. You don't have to play it safe anymore. Like, you can just take on the wildest, craziest projects imaginable and try and bring them to life.
Wouldn't it be like kind of cool to, like, you know, be a part of the projects for sure, but why not try and mentor some new talented directors and take them under your wing? Well, you know, say for example with Gladiator 2, he clearly wanted to be a part of it. Sure, I understand that, but it would have been nice if it wasn't a cheap, lazy, lame copy of your film that you made many, many years ago that everyone loved. And so instead, you could have made something that had a bit more life in it, I guess is the way to put it. And I just think these comments about the cinematography would reflect so much more about the way that he's making films, to the point where he's just pumping out. And it's like, well, that's still impressive for the man of his age, right? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know how involved he even is anymore. Yeah, well, that's another thing. Who cares if they're all going to be, you know, forgotten?
Yeah, because for most of my life, literally since I started doing YouTube, I never cared who made the movie. I didn't want to know who the scriptwriters were. The moment the credits went, I left. I only wanted to know, is the movie good? And I didn't care about the backstage people at all. The only reason I know who people are now is because they're making crap, and I want to know what they're attached to next, so I know that's crap as well. That's why I learned their names. And so it doesn't really bother. I'm only concerned with sort of the end output of his stuff rather than his intentions.
Yeah, I get you. Because I'm pretty much in the same position, and man, I have to imagine that's going to sting a little bit, right? To have a cinematographer that's been with you for that many movies be like, I'm not working with you anymore because you're making shit.
Yeah.
You're like, damn.
I mean, there's also, like, if you're 86, the quality of your work in any industry is going to go down at 86. Like, surely, you are reaching an age where you will not be able to do what you were able to, not just physically, but mentally and everything else. Even in an office job, I wouldn't expect the same of an 86-year-old that they could do when they were younger.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm assuming, like, being a director, particularly on big budget epics like Gladiator 2 and stuff, it's a tremendously demanding job physically and mentally, and it is probably extremely stressful. And damn, man, as you say, at 86, do you really want that stress in your life? Do you need it?
I would have retired decades ago.
Yeah. I mean, we say that maybe that's the only thing that's keeping him going. Maybe it's just like,
honestly,
making films. It just gives me energy.
Like I said, I'm glad he's still doing it, and I'm happy to see he's still making movies, especially if he loves doing it. But like, you can't escape the fact then that I'll be considering your movie shit if you keep making shit ones. I'm just gonna say, these are the consequences of your actions.
And I think you pointed out, like, he's gradually making his way through all of his old franchises that he helped to create, and destroying them. He's done it with Alien, he's done it with Gladiator at this point. Like, what's left to ruin?
Well, because he was connected to the Blade Runner sequel as well, right? Like, he would have produced it at the very least.
Maybe an executive producer credit or something. Like, I don't think he was directly involved, but yeah, you can only imagine what it'd be like if he was put in charge of the next Blade Runner.
You know what was disappointing for me? I was looking forward to seeing the new Napoleon, like back when it was like hot and it was being advertised, and I was really disappointed when I heard that. First off, like a bunch of it was like fictionalized, right? And that a lot of it didn't really happen, which doesn't surprise me too much. But I mean, it was completely outlandish. And then what really disappointed me was seeing that, what was it? Like, I heard that half of the story like focused on his girlfriend or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not signing up for this. It's like, I want to see Joaquin Phoenix at his finest here represent this incredible historical character. So disappointing. I'm glad I never wasted my time.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you've got Napoleon, like literally one of the most interesting people in all of history, and you spend an hour at least of the film just focusing on Josephine, who really didn't do that much historically, but like they just wanted that balance there. It's a waste of fucking time. I think there is going to be like a director's cut of it that's like 8 hours long or something.
I won't be watching it.
Yeah. And
he's got 19 upcoming projects, with different
that's almost as many as Pedro Pascal.
But what's interesting to me is, of course, you read through the list, you're like, oh, there's an Alien, another Alien, a Blade Runner. It's just like, God, this sucks.
He's not the only one, though. There's a few people returning, like Russell T. Davis, David Tennant, both came back to Doctor Who specifically to destroy it, because they're not the same people they were before. I think people change over time, and some changes just mean you're not capable of what you were doing, because you don't have the same values and everything else that you're used to, so you make different stories.
Well, yeah, your values can change, and yeah, as you pointed out before, like your actual creative abilities decline with age. Like there's obviously that sweet spot, I guess. It could be 50, it could be 60 or whatnot, when you're still like relatively fit and energetic and you can still create stuff. But beyond that, you start to decline. And look at guys like George R.R. Martin. He's lost all of his creative impulses and all of his creative energy. He's never going to finish his books, but he doesn't care. He's old and fat, and he's just happy to go to premieres and get loads of attention, and that's fine for him.
I think that happens as you age as well, though. You just stop caring what other people think as much. And so by the time he's 86, before, when he may have taken criticism from his cinematographer, where he's like, no, we need to do this, he's like, nah, I know best. And he's just like completely uncontrolled, unrestrained, not listening to anybody. And it could just be that the guy used to be listened to and his advice used to be taken on board, and now he's like, no, I've done this for so many decades, I don't need your advice anymore.
The one that still baffles me is Clint Eastwood. Like, I fucking love him, and he's like an icon of cinema, but like, he's about 96 years old. How is he still making movies? And why?
Well, have you seen Jura 2, I think it is, right?
I've heard not great things about it.
I haven't seen it yet, but the trailer made me interested. But I'm curious how that... I almost want to see it just to see what it looks like to watch a film made by a 900,000-year-old zombie. I want to see what's... I'm curious. I'd love to watch the process of him directing a film at that age. I want to see if it is like him mostly just sitting down and other people doing things, or if he's actually telling people to do stuff, like with everything.
I mean, I heard rumors that like he relies quite a bit on like assistant directors and various people around him to do a lot of the work for him, and he's kind of just overseeing it at this point, which I can understand.
Because
In
I
which
wonder
case-
if that's what the studios are doing and the production companies, like, he's got such a name that we can grab him and then
just wheeling this poor man out on set.
I mean, a little bit.
He's got like a blanket
asleep.
over him and stuff.
Well, dude, you got Nicholas Hoult, Tony Collette, J.K. Simmons, Kiefer Sutherland, Zoe. Oh, I thought it was someone else actually. But anyway, like, it's enough to grab some names, right? Clint Eastwood, especially for actors who are maybe in their 30s and 40s, being like, I'd love to have a chance to work with him before I can't, you know?
Oh yeah, that's a big deal. That's why like a lot of people signed up for Marlon Brando movies like towards the end of his career because it's like, holy fuck, I'm going to get a chance to work with Marlon Brando. I've got to take this opportunity because he's pretty old now. And that's how you ended up with Val Kilmer in Island of Dr. Moreau. And it turns out they absolutely hated each other.